Hello everyone. So welcome to day one of what new learn today. So today we will be learning about the grid view. So today grid view basically in a project I was working on. So I saw this term which was used that grid view is basically used. So I thought that let's look into it and what is it and how it works. So let's learn today about this new thing, grid view. Okay, so I have to search again like grid view in .NET. Okay, so third link that we see here, grid view class. So first of all, this is a class. So this is a class. So I can say, first of all, let's understand that everything in .NET is a class, a part of a namespace. Okay, it's an object. So grid view is also a class. This is what I can see, and it is a part of system.web.ui.web controls namespace. So let's open this link and let's read the documentation what it says. So first of all, I once I open this web page, on the left you can see the version of .NET framework is selected by default 4.8.1. And to see if this so first thought that came in my mind, that whether this class is available in .NET Core as well or not. Okay, so on the right hand side over here, this is a navigation links, where the second last option is applies to tells us that whether this class, this namespace, or this code piece of code is applicable or can be used in .NET Core or .NET Framework only, earlier one, and also up to which version this is supported. So let's see. This particular class is applied only on the .NET Framework, which was the older framework, and since the beginning of the .NET Framework, except 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and up to 4.8.1, which is the latest one, all of the version of the .NET Framework, older .NET Framework, support this class library. So this class is supported everywhere. So let's understand. So this is the namespace system.web.ui.web controls in which this particular class exists and what it does. So of course this class is created, then it has some purpose. And as we know by the definition of class, class is a blueprint of a real object. So what it actually does. So grid view class by name, I can say that it's a it's a class which is used to uh, display a grid on, but this grid view class is only supported in the .NET framework only. And in today's .NET Core, we are generally working with the .NET APIs, web APIs. There we don't use these grid view class. So I can say that this is a UI level things. Now to relate this is UI level. Uh, the namespace also tells us this, that this is a UI level. So this class, GridView class, present in the system namespace, sub namespace web. So this is available for the web applications only and not the desktop applications. And within this web namespace, to render the UI, .NET framework provided us multiple namespaces and classes. And one of that is uh, UI. To render the UI, this namespace is present. And within the UI, there are multiple things that we need to take care of, but one specific thing that we need to take care of are the controls. So earlier we used to place the controls, web controls, on web page. So within this system namespace we have sub namespace web, and within that web namespace we have a sub namespace UI, and under that we have another namespace which is web controls. So what they have done is they collected all the web controls, okay, UI, collected all the web controls and placed together within one namespace, which they called system.web.ui.webcontrols. And within that namespace, we have one class, GridView class, which is a control. So we can say that this is a control to display grid on the UI of older ASP.NET applications, which is ASP.NET Web Forms. Okay, so I can right click on this namespace and open it. Okay, just to give a quick, just to take a quick look on it. Uh, Once I open this web page, all we can see that system.web.ui.webcontrols namespace, and within this namespace we have classes, structures, interfaces, enums, delegates. So there are five kinds of uh, objects, five kinds of objects that are present in this namespace, and lots of classes and lots of other structures, interfaces, enums, delegates are present. But we are only concerned about the grid view as of now. And if any user wants to develop any web application, ASP.NET web application, web forms application, classic web forms application, and they want to use the web controls, what they have to do is, all they have to do is use this namespace. Okay, and once they use this namespace, they can use all of the controls present in the web controls namespace. So we will I will look into this namespace separately and go through each and every single classes that are present in this namespace. uh, then we will move to the structures, then interfaces, enums, delegates, uh, one by one. But for now, we will look at the grid view class. So this is something new that we learned today, that we have a grid view class which we can use to display the grid on the UI of ASP.NET Web Forms. Okay, and in which assembly this namespace present is in the system.web.dll. So this is the DLL name, which is system.web. So to reference it in our project, you can use system.web.dll, and then you can import it using statement, and that's all you have to do is. So let's read the definition. So definition says that this class, so this class is available for displaying a grid. And over on the right hand side, you can see there are some examples present, remarks. Then about within the class, what are the things that are present in within the inside of the class. Then first thing is the constructors which are present. Then there are some properties of the GridView class. If you want to change the property, so every, you know that I know that every class has constructor, properties, methods. That's how we create classes, that we create some properties of the class, and then some operations which we call methods to operate upon those data. So those properties denote data about the class. So, and the class itself denote our object in a real time. Okay, real world. So grid view is also class, so definitely it has some properties. And uh, if we think about properties about the grid view, uh, for example, if I have to think randomly, what all properties could be present, it could be like changing the color of grid view, or adding a border within the grid. Okay, so these will be like UI specific properties, or it could be logical properties as well, but they are present, we can use them. Then there are some methods to perform some operations that are required for the grid view. And then there are some events as well. Okay, and there are some explicit interface implementations, and there are some extension methods as well that are present for this class. We will look at them one by one, but let's understand it, what is it. So the definition says that grid view class, if you want to use display grid, just use the grid view class. It displays the values of a data source in a table. So let's suppose you have a data source where the data is present, and you want to display it on the UI, and you want to display that data in a tabular form. Okay, uh, where each, within this that table, each column represents a field. Okay, so field like serial number, name, gender, phone number. Okay, and each row represents a record. That means what is the serial number, what is the name. So let's say serial number 1 name is Ram, and gender is male, date of birth is 1st January 2000, and that is represents a record. So this class is used to display the values of a data source, that data source, in a tabular form. All you have to do is use this class, very easy. So the grid view control, so over here we have this reference. I think this is the same reference, right? Yeah, this is the same reference. So grid view control, and look at it, they are calling it a control, not class. So this is a control. Controls you want to use on the web page. So you want to use some controls on the web page, you can use these controls. There are some controls available by default in HTML, like input box, uh, text box, rich text box, radio button, checkbox, normal button, submit button, these kind of controls that are already present in the HTML, but they only run on the client side. These are the controls which can run on the server side as well, and .NET provides them out of the box. Okay, so this the grid view control enables you to select, sort, and edit these items. So let's say you have a data source where data is present, you want to display it, you use the grid view class, and you that grid view class generated a table on UI where your data is presented in row columns format, in a table format, and you want to select that data row by row, and you want to sort the data based on the date of birth, or you want to edit and change some of the values like name, changing the name of the item. All of you can do using all of these actions you can perform on this grid view, and these can be uh, modified at the server level as well. So this is about the this is the one of the control grid view. And if you look at the class, this is the grid view class which inherit from the system.web.ui.web controls composite data bound control, and there are so many other classes as well that are present. And these you we are inheriting from the one is the class, and others are interfaces. If you can see system.web.ui I callback event handler, this is an interface. This, and if you look at it, these interfaces are within present within the UI namespace. Okay, system.web.ui. So if you remember, I mentioned it that if you want to work on the web application and you want to place some controls on the UI, okay, and you want to place some controls on the UI, all you have to do is use these namespace system.web.ui. So they have separated created these namespace separately. Say they have this namespace system.web.ui for the purpose of placing controls on the UI. So they have separately these this namespace, and system.web.ui namespace. Within this namespace, we have present multiple interfaces. So what they did is they created one namespace system.web.ui. Within that namespace, they created multiple interfaces, and the implementation for the these interfaces of implementation for these interfaces are done within the controls classes. They must have defined some kind of operations, some kind of properties, anything they have. They must have defined uh, these kind of operations within these interfaces, like contract. So they created a contract which is implemented in the uh, specific class, which is implemented by some class, and they provide the definition of those actions. Okay, in this case GridView is the class which is implementing the actions declared in these interfaces, and implementing those uh, actions. This kind of pattern we also follow in our clean architecture, where we define our interface, we call it contract, and we then give the definition to those contracts. So we implement those contract and those interfaces, and we have the definition. This way we inject those interfaces using the dependency injection, and that is a different concept. And using that dependency injection, we inject that interface and call the definition of the uh, that interface. And this way we can have multiple definitions for the interface, and we can choose which definition we want to pick. And if you look at it, these interfaces are present in the UI namespace and UI dot web controls namespace. Within this web controls namespace, so they here we have some interfaces. I mentioned that there are some interfaces. These are the interfaces that are present, very few interfaces. So these are interfaces that are present here, and these interfaces are basically we are implementing in the grid view. And then we have another uh, attribute, which is system.web.ui.control value property, which is in the UI namespace, with where we have the value called selected value. We will look at this. This is something new. Okay, how it is working, so we will look at it later on. And this is how inheritance is shown. At the top, object, and then control class is created. Okay, let me verify if yeah, yes. So this is the control class, and then we have web control. Define the control base class, then web control or desktop Windows control, and then data bound control, and then data bound control, and then composite data bound control, and then grid view. We will look at them one by one later on. Something new we are learning about. What are these things? Never heard about them. So attribute, it has one attribute assigned to it, which is control value property attribute, which is here, and we will look at it later on. Just a quick peek at it. Okay, we will look at it later. And this grid view class implements these interfaces, so many interfaces. You can pick these one by one, these interfaces, and read through the definitions of these interfaces and understand what these interfaces are all about. Okay, uh, but I will read about them one by one. Then we have examples. There are some examples as well, so we will look at that example as well. Okay, so I'm taking a pause here for a few minutes, and then I will come back and continue.